They laughed when they saw her. She was just 15, too young, too small. Not someone they trusted with their lives. But that night, in a frozen war zone, when the ambush began, she became the only reason the platoon survived. The MH-47 Chinook carved through the blizzard at -18°C, carrying 12 operators from SEAL Team 7 deep into Afghanistan's Hindu Kush Mountains. Their mission was clear: extract diplomat Richard Harman from a Taliban compound before he disappeared across the Pakistani border. Intelligence suggested 15 to 20 hostiles. The thermal imaging told a different story. Lieutenant Chen's voice crackled through comms. "Sir, I'm counting at least 40 heat signatures." Commander Blake's jaw tightened. They'd received word just 24 hours earlier on Christmas Eve that Harman had been moved to this remote location. The window was closing fast. As Blake turned to address his team, he paused. Sitting at the rear of the cargo bay, dwarfed by tactical gear twice her size, was someone who didn't belong. Ava Reyes looked like she should be studying for algebra tests, not providing overwatch for America's most elite fighting force. At 15 years old, she stood barely 5'3", her dark hair pulled back beneath a watch cap. The TASE 338 sniper rifle across her lap was nearly as long as she was tall. Blake's announcement was met with immediate mockery. "She's 15. Did someone's daughter get lost on take? Your kid to work day." Petty Officer Jackson muttered, triggering ripples of laughter through the team. Ava didn't flinch. She'd heard worse during her 6 months at the CIA training facility. Her fingers moved methodically across the rifle scope, adjusting for altitude and wind speeds. The Barrett was chambered in a .338 Lapua Magnum, capable of engaging targets beyond 1,500 meters in the right hands. "Visibility's going to be 20 meters max," Rodriguez said. "What's a kid going to spot that our thermals can't?" Blake held up his hand for silence, though he shared their skepticism. The orders had come from high enough that questioning wasn't an option. Asset designation Sierra 7. Specialty: extreme long-range precision fire in adverse conditions. The file hadn't mentioned her age. As the Chinook descended, Ava checked her gear one last time. Among the rangefinders and ballistic calculators was a small hand mirror tucked into her chest pocket, scratched and bent at one corner, a gift from another time. Blake grabbed her shoulder as they prepared to exit. "Stay behind us. Don't engage unless I give explicit authorization." Ava met his eyes with quiet certainty, the look of someone who'd already seen too much. "Yes, sir." The ramp dropped. The team flowed into the whiteout, boots crunching on 3 feet of powder, covering an abandoned Soviet-era base. The Chinook's engine screamed as it pulled away, leaving them in profound silence. The compound was 200 meters northeast, nestled against a cliff face. A 3-story concrete building half-collapsed, with a maze of connected outbuildings. As they advanced, Chen whispered into the radio movement, 11 o'clock. Shadows multiplied through the falling snow. What had been 6 became 12, then 20. The thermal scopes painted them in shades of red against the white landscape. "This is a setup," Jackson muttered. "We're walking into an ambush." Ava's rangefinder confirmed his instincts. 800 meters, wind gusting to 25 kilometers per hour. She transmitted quietly, "Sir, the heat signatures show a company-sized element. At least 60 combatants, possibly more in the buildings." Blake's response was terse. "Copy. Maintain radio silence unless you have critical intelligence." Translation: "The adults are handling this." Then Ava saw it. 800 meters upslope, barely visible through the snowfall, a figure moved into position behind a low stone wall. The posture was unmistakable, someone preparing to shoulder something heavier than a rifle. "RPG gunner, northern ridgeline," she transmitted urgently. 800 meters, 10 degrees right of the main structure. Jackson replied immediately, "I don't see anything." Ava insisted. "Trust me, he's about to fire." Blake hesitated for only a heartbeat before ordering, "All elements, find hard cover." The SEALs scattered. 3 seconds later, a rocket-propelled grenade streaked through the falling snow, impacting the burnt vehicle chassis they'd been using for cover. The explosion sent shrapnel singing through the air. 2 more RPGs followed in rapid succession. The Taliban had revealed their ambush, and it was devastating. The SEALs were pinned, unable to advance or retreat without exposing themselves to the high ground. Without waiting for authorization, Ava Lowe crawled away from the main group, heading for a cluster of pine trees 30 meters west. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. "Sometimes the right thing to do is the thing they'll court-martial you for." The snow soaked through her jacket as she dragged the Tacey 338 behind her. She slipped between 2 trunks, finding a natural depression with a clear line of sight to the ridgeline. 3 years earlier, when Ava was 12, her father had given her that hand mirror as a Christmas present. Master Sergeant David Rise had been a Delta Force legend, a sniper instructor who trained 2 generations of operators. "A mirror can save your life," he'd told her that Christmas morning. "It can check corners, signal aircraft, and most importantly, it can deceive an enemy sniper. Make them think they've spotted your scope glint when you're actually 3 feet to the left." Ava had grown up on military bases, homeschooled between her father's deployments. While other children learned multiplication tables, she learned mile-dot ranging. After her mother died when Ava was 7, David channeled his grief into preparing his daughter for a dangerous world. The talent came naturally. Ava's eyesight tested at 28, meaning she could see at 20 feet what most people saw at 8. Her hand-eye coordination placed her in the 99th percentile. But more than physical gifts, she possessed an almost supernatural ability to read wind and distance. At 13, she could consistently hit targets at 800 meters. At 14, she'd extended that to 1,200. The CIA started paying attention. Then came last Christmas, December 23rd, to be exact. David Reyes had been providing overwatch for a hostage rescue in Yemen. The SEALs walked into a compromised operation, a coordinated ambush. David held his position for 40 minutes, providing covering fire while the team extracted. He saved 11 lives that day. The 12th shot, the one aimed at him, came from a sniper he hadn't spotted in the chaos. The CIA officer who delivered the news hadn't sugarcoated it. "Your father died doing what he did best, protecting others." They also made her an offer. The agency needed someone with her skills, someone who could operate where conventional military snipers would draw attention. Someone overlooked, underestimated. "You can honor his memory," the officer said, "or you can let his sacrifice mean nothing." Ava chose to honor it. 6 months of intensive training followed. When the tasking order for Afghanistan came through, Ava volunteered immediately, not for glory or revenge, but because the mission brief contained 3 words that stopped her heart: Christmas Day extraction. She wouldn't let another team lose someone on Christmas, not if she could prevent it. Now, deployed in the Afghan snow, Ava settled into her shooting position. Through the scope, she acquired the first targets an RPG gunner, partially concealed behind stacked stones. Range 823 meters. Wind northwest at 20 kilometers per hour, gusting unpredictably. She'd need to account for air density, the Coriolis effect, even the fact that her barrel was cold. The calculations flowed through her mind in seconds, muscle memory and training combining into instinct. She adjusted the scope's turrets. Breathe in. Breathe out. Find the natural respiratory pause. The rifle bucked against her shoulder. Through the scope, she watched the RPG gunner collapse. "RPG position 1 is down," she transmitted calmly. Acquiring second target. The second gunner was scrambling for his weapon. Ava tracked him smoothly, leading his movement. The second shot took him in the upper chest. The third target was more difficult. He'd realized his team was under sniper fire and dropped behind cover. Ava could see only his elbow and part of his knee. She waited, breathing slowly. 20 seconds passed. The man shifted, trying to get a better angle. As he moved, his head rose above the wall for a fraction of a second. Ava fired. The bullet entered through his left eye. LRPG positions neutralized, she reported. The radio was silent for 3 full seconds. Then Blake's voice came through, carrying disbelief. Sierra 7. Confirm you just took out 3 targets at 800 meters in a blizzard. After her confirmation, Blake said, outstanding shooting. Hold your position and provide overwatch. The SEALs advanced again, but Ava's instincts screamed warnings. The Taliban had revealed their ambush too early. Professional fighters didn't make that kind of mistake unless they had a backup plan. She scanned the compound, watching thermal signatures disperse to flanking positions. They were being herded. Commander, I recommend holding position, she transmitted. The enemy is repositioning for a secondary ambush. Blake acknowledged, but the team continued advancing. They were too close to the objective to pull back. The SEALs reached the compound's outer wall. Chen placed a breaching charge on the metal gate. 3, 2, 1. The explosion blew the gate inward. The team flooded through. Immediately, muzzle flashes erupted from 3 directions. The Taliban had waited until the SEALs were fully committed, then opened fire from prepared positions. The radio dissolved into controlled chaos. This wasn't a hostage situation. This was a calculated trap. Ava went to work. Her scope found a machine gunner on a rooftop sweeping fire across the courtyard where the SEALs were pinned, range 645 meters. She compensated and fired. The gunner dropped. A fighter emerged from a doorway raising an RPG launcher. Ava's second shot caught him before he could fire, the rocket detonating harmlessly against the wall. "Sniper on the northeast tower!" Jackson shouted. He just dropped Martinez. Ava swung her scope toward the crumbling minaret rising above the compound. She could see the muzzle flash. See the shooter's profile as he tracked another target. This one was different. The deliberate pace of his shooting marked him as professional, someone with formal training. She fired. Missed. The bullet impacted 6 inches left of her aim point, the wind having shifted unpredictably. The enemy sniper immediately went to ground, recognizing the threat. For several seconds, neither shooter moved. Then Ava saw it, a glint of reflected light from his scope. He was scanning for her position. She reached into her chest pocket and pulled out her father's mirror. Holding it at an angle, she let the faint moonlight catch its surface, creating a brief flash 50 feet to her right. The enemy sniper took the bait. His muzzle flash revealed his position as he fired at the false target. Ava was already squeezing her trigger. The shot was perfect, hitting him center mass. He tumbled from the tower. "Tower sniper eliminated," she reported. Rodriguez answered, "Martinez has a flesh wound. He'll live, thanks to you." The firefight continued for another 10 minutes. But with Ava providing precision overwatch, the momentum shifted. Every time a Taliban fighter tried to maneuver against the SEALs, she was there. Every time they tried to establish a machine gun position, she neutralized it. By the time the shooting stopped, she'd fired 14 rounds. 12 kills confirmed. Blake's voice came through carrying a new tone of respect. "Sierra 7, outstanding work. We're moving to the target building. Maintain overwatch and call out any threats." As the SEALs breached the main structure, Ava provided Guardian Angel coverage. These men had mocked her 90 minutes ago. Now their lives depended on her accuracy. But Ava's attention was drawn to something else. Through her scope, she caught movement on the far ridgeline. Another sniper position being established, more methodical and professional than the others. "Commander, I have a probable sniper position. Northwest ridge, approximately 1,100 meters. Blake asked if she could neutralize it. Working on it, she replied. The distant figure was barely visible through the falling snow. Ava could make out only the vaguest outline. Someone prone behind a rock formation, something dark and cylindrical extending forward. A serious rifle, judging by its length. She checked her ballistic calculator. 1,100 meters. In perfect conditions, the T-338 could reach that far reliably. But these weren't perfect conditions. The wind was gusting unpredictably, the snow reducing visibility to almost nothing, and she was shooting at a target who knew exactly what he was doing. Through her scope, she saw the enemy sniper's rifle swivel, tracking toward the SEAL position. Ava fired first, aiming high to account for the extreme distance. The bullet kicked up snow 30 feet short of the target. The enemy immediately shifted position. For the next several minutes, neither shooter could gain an advantage. It was a deadly dance. Two professionals testing each other's limits. Ava would fire, forcing her opponent to move. He would return fire, rounds cracking past her position. Then the enemy sniper made his move, shifting to a new position with a better angle on the SEALs, clearly intending to engage them regardless of the threat Ava posed. She couldn't allow that. Ava remembered her father's words. When conventional tactics fail, use unconventional ones. A sniper isn't just a shooter. A sniper is a problem solver. She pulled out the hand mirror again, studying the battlefield. There was ambient light from the snow itself, enough to create faint reflections. She adjusted the mirror's angle, catching the light and directing it toward a point 20 feet to her left. The enemy sniper saw the glint. His rifle swiveled toward it. Ava had already adjusted her aim. She wasn't shooting at where he was. She was shooting at where he would be when he turned to engage the false target. She held her breath, feeling the wind against her face. The gust was dying down, creating a brief window of calmer air. She squeezed the trigger during that window, trusting her calculations, trusting her instincts. The bullet traveled for nearly 3 seconds before impact. Through her scope, Ava saw the enemy sniper jerk backward, the rifle tumbling from his hands. "Target down," she whispered. Jackson's voice came through, his earlier mockery completely absent. "Sierra 7, was that you shooting at 1,100 meters?" After her confirmation, someone muttered, "Jesus Christ. That's a competition, level shot in a blizzard." Blake cut through, "Less chatter. We've located the hostage. Preparing to extract." Ava swept her scope across the compound one more time, then reported, "Sir, you have approximately 15 minutes before a large force reaches your position. I count 30 to 40 hostiles moving in from the south." Blake acknowledged and expedited the extraction. Through her scope, Ava watched the SEALs emerge from the main building with Richard Harmon between them. The diplomat looked rough but alive. The team moved quickly toward the extraction point. That's when the Taliban commander made his appearance. He emerged from a concealed bunker, flanked by 2 bodyguards. But it wasn't him Ava noticed first. It was the person he was dragging. A young Afghan girl, maybe 10 years old, clearly terrified. "Contact. Commander has a hostage," Chen shouted. The Taliban leader positioned himself behind the girl, using her as a human shield while retreating toward the tree line. His bodyguards provided covering fire. "I can't get a shot," Jackson radioed. "He's completely behind the girl." Blake's voice was grim. "We cannot let him escape with that hostage. Sierra 7, do you have an angle?" Ava tracked them through her scope. The commander was smart, keeping the girl between himself and any potential shooter. But to move effectively through the deep snow, he occasionally had to shift her to his side rather than directly in front. The window would be tiny, maybe half a second, and she'd be shooting through pine branches that could deflect her bullet unpredictably. "I have a possible shot," Ava transmitted. But it's high risk. If I miss or the bullet deflects, I could hit the girl. Blake asked for her confidence level. Ava thought about her father, about the 11 SEALs he'd saved by taking a shot when he wasn't certain of the outcome. 60%, she said honestly. 60% meant a 40% chance of killing an innocent child. Hold your fire, Blake ordered. We'll pursue on foot. But Ava was still watching. The commander was moving toward a ravine that would give him cover. If he reached it, the girl would disappear into the same nightmare that had claimed so many others. Then Ava saw something that changed the calculation. The commander's grip on the girl's shoulder. He wasn't just using her as a shield. His hand was positioned exactly on the pressure point where shoulder met neck, a control hold designed to cause pain and compliance. That hand position meant he was expecting resistance, prepared to hurt her if she tried to escape. And it meant Ava had a target that wasn't the girl's body. "Commander, I'm taking the shot," Ava transmitted. Blake's voice was immediate, negative. "Stand down." But Ava was already squeezing the trigger. The bullet traveled 890 meters, through falling snow, through pine branches, through air that seemed determined to push it off course. It struck exactly where Ava had aimed, the Taliban commander's right wrist where his hand gripped the girl's shoulder. The impact shattered bone. The commander's hand released involuntarily, and the girl immediately dropped and rolled away, just as Ava had gambled she would. Engaging secondary targets, Ava said calmly, already tracking the first bodyguard. 2 more shots, 2 more hits. The bodyguards fell. Rodriguez reached the commander seconds later, securing him with zip ties. Chen pulled the little girl to safety, wrapping her in his jacket and carrying her toward the extraction point. Blake's voice came through tight with emotion. "Sierra 7, that was either the best shot I've ever seen or the luckiest. I'm genuinely not sure which." Ava replied quietly, "Neither, sir. It was the necessary shot." The Chinook descended through the blizzard 20 minutes later. The SEAL team loaded quickly. Harman, the rescued Afghan girl, the wounded Martinez, and the captured Taliban commander. As they prepared to board, Blake approached Ava. She was field stripping her rifle with numb fingers. "That wrist shot," he said. "How did you know the girl would drop?" "I didn't know for certain," Ava admitted. "But I saw how he was holding her. That's a pain compliance hold. When you break the bone, the grip releases involuntarily. The human body can't maintain muscle tension through that kind of trauma. I was betting she'd have the instinct to get away from danger." Blake studied her in the darkness. "Your file says you're 15. It doesn't say you're one of the best snipers I've ever worked with." Ava finished reassembling the rifle. "The file also doesn't say my father died on a mission exactly like this one. Last Christmas, he was providing overwatch for a SEAL team in Yemen." Understanding dawned on Blake's face. "Master Sergeant David Reyes. He saved 11 operators in that firefight." Ava's voice was steady. "He did. And I wasn't going to let you become the 12th casualty he couldn't prevent." The other SEALs had gathered around, listening. Jackson stepped forward, pulling something from his vest, a SEAL Team 7 patch. "Kid, regulations say we can't officially give you this," he said. "But unofficially you earned it tonight. 12 confirmed kills, 0 friendly casualties. That's a better ratio than most of us achieve in a career." He pressed the patch into her hand. One by one, the other SEALs came forward, each offering a word of respect, a handshake, a nod of acknowledgement. Ava felt something break inside her chest, a wall she'd built around her grief, her anger, her loneliness. Tears came hot against her frozen cheeks. "My dad used to say snipers don't cry," she whispered. Blake said gently, "Your dad was wrong about that. The best ones do. It means they remember that every trigger pull matters, that every life has weight." Chen emerged from the Chinook, carrying the little Afghan girl, who'd been checked by the team's medic. "She keeps asking who saved her," Chen said. "I told her an angel in the snow." The girl looked at Ava and smiled despite everything she'd been through. Ava smiled back, wondering if her father had felt this way after saving those 11 seals. This strange mixture of exhaustion and purpose, grief and hope. As they boarded the helicopter, Rodriguez sat down next to Ava. "So what happens now? You go back to high school and pretend you spent Christmas break doing normal teenager things." Ava admitted she didn't know what the CIA had planned. "Well, when you turn 18, Rodriguez said, if you want a place among us, the door's open. We could use someone with your skills. Hell, we could use someone with your instincts." The Chinook lifted off, banking away from the compound. Below, the snow was already covering their tracks, erasing evidence of the night's violence. But Ava would remember every shot, every decision, every life saved and taken. As they flew through the Christmas morning darkness heading back to base, Ava pulled out her father's mirror. Its scratched surface reflected her own face, older somehow than it had been 12 hours ago. "I kept them safe, Dad," she whispered. "Just like you taught me." Jackson broke the quiet. "Sierra 7, what was your longest shot tonight?" Ava replied, 1,134 meters. The counter sniper on the northwest ridge, in a blizzard with wind gusts up to 30 kilometers per hour. He shook his head in disbelief. "That shouldn't be possible." Ava's voice was soft. "My father used to say that impossible is just possible that hasn't been done yet." Blake looked at her thoughtfully. "Your father trained you well, but he also gave you something more important than skills. He gave you judgment. You knew when to take the shot and when to hold fire. That's what separates good snipers from great ones." Ava said quietly, "I almost killed that little girl. If the wind had shifted, if my calculations had been off by a few inches." Blake interrupted, "But they weren't. You made the right call under impossible pressure. That takes courage," Jackson added with a slight smile, "or insanity. Probably both." Dawn was breaking over Bagram Airfield when they landed. The Christmas morning sky was clear, a sharp contrast to the blizzard they'd left behind. As they disembarked, a figure in civilian clothes approached. Thomas Crawford, Ava's handler from the CIA. "Merry Christmas," he said dryly. "I hear you made quite an impression." After confirming the mission success, Crawford informed her, "Now you go home. Back to Virginia. Back to being a 15-year-old kid for a while." "I'm not a kid anymore," Ava said. Crawford agreed. "No, you're not. But you deserve a chance to be one, at least for a little while longer." Blake approached, having finished his debrief. "Mr. Crawford, I'd like to speak with you about Sierra 7's future deployment options." Crawford reminded him of her age, but Blake was insistent. "I'm aware. But age aside, she's one of the most naturally gifted snipers I've encountered in 20 years of special operations." Crawford looked at Ava. "Is this what you want? To keep doing this?" Ava thought about her father, about the 11 men he'd saved, about the little Afghan girl who'd smiled at her. "My father used to say that talent without purpose is just potential," she said. "He gave me the talent. Tonight I found the purpose." Blake pulled out his satellite phone, showing her his official after-action report. Sierra 7 provided precision long-range fire support under extreme conditions. 12 confirmed enemy KIA. Multiple threats neutralized at ranges exceeding 1,100 meters in blizzard conditions. Her actions directly resulted in 0 friendly casualties and successful mission completion. This operator demonstrated skills and judgment equivalent to or exceeding our most experienced snipers. "Highest recommendation for future operations," Blake said firmly. "I don't write reports like that lightly." "You've earned every word." As the SEAL team prepared to move out, each operator stopped to acknowledge Ava. Jackson was last. Hey, Sierra 7, one question. That mirror trick you used on the counter sniper, where'd you learn that? Ava answered, my father. It was his technique. Recognition crossed Jackson's face. David Rise. I heard stories about him. They said he could make a rifle do things that shouldn't be possible. Ava's voice was soft. A could. Jackson saluted her, a formal military salute recognizing a fellow warrior. It was an honor serving with you. As the team departed, Ava stood alone on the tarmac, watching the sun rise over the mountains. Somewhere in those peaks, snow was still falling on an abandoned compound, on spent shell casings and bloodstains, on the place where she'd learned that her father's training hadn't just been about shooting. It had been about protecting, about sacrifice, about doing the hard things when lives depended on it. Weeks later, in a modest Pentagon office, Ava sat with Crawford across from two generals and a colonel, all studying a classified file with her name on it. This is unprecedented, General Morrison said. We don't employ 15-year-olds in combat operations. Crawford replied, we just did, and the results speak for themselves. The general countered, the results are legally problematic. If this became public, the backlash would be severe. Blake had been invited specifically to advocate for Ava's continued service. Then we don't make it public. Sierra 7 remains a classified asset. Her identity stays protected. But we don't sideline someone with her capabilities out of bureaucratic discomfort. Morrison turned to Ava. Miss Reyes, do you understand what's being discussed here? We're talking about putting you in harm's way repeatedly, asking you to take lives, expecting you to make decisions that trained soldiers twice your age struggle with. Yes, sir, I understand, Ava said. Morrison pressed, and you want to continue? Ava chose her words carefully. My father taught me that everyone has gifts. Some people are gifted at music or mathematics or art. I'm gifted at this. And I've seen what happens when people with gifts don't use them. Good people die who might have lived. The general repeated, you're 15. Ava's voice was quiet, but firm. I'm also the reason 11 Americans and one Afghan child went home alive on Christmas. Age didn't matter on that mountain. Capability did. The room fell silent. Finally, Morrison closed the file. I'm going to make a recommendation that will probably end my career. I think we establish a special category for Sierra 7. Limited operational deployment, extensive oversight, required psychological evaluations every 60 days. And if at any point we determine this is harming her, we pull her immediately. The other officers nodded. Morrison continued, Miss Reyes, you'll continue your education. You'll maintain a cover identity as a normal teenager. But when we need someone with your specific skills set in situations where conventional operators can't be employed, you'll be available. Can you live with that double life? Ava's answer was simple. I've been living it for 6 months, sir. Morrison leaned back. Then welcome to the most classified program in the Department of Defense. Officially, you don't exist. Unofficially, you might be one of our most valuable assets. As they left the Pentagon, Blake walked with Ava to the waiting car. That went better than I expected. Ava asked what happens now. Now you go back to school, Blake said. You take your tests. You do normal teenage things. And when we need you, Crawford will call. They shook hands, Blake's grip firm and respectful. Your father would be proud, he said. Not just of your shooting, but of your character. You made hard choices with grace. That's rare at any age. Crawford drove Ava to the airport. You should know, he said. The little girl you saved, her name is Zara. She's being relocated to a safe house in Kabul. Because of you, she has a future. And the Taliban commander we captured, the intelligence he's providing will save a lot of lives. So in a way, your shot did more than just save one girl. It started a chain reaction that's still playing out. At the airport, Crawford handed her a secure phone with a new number. Only 3 people have it. Me, Blake, and your contact at the agency. Keep it charged. When we need you, we'll need you fast." He also gave her a small box that had arrived from SEAL Team 7. Inside was a challenge coin, a metal disc with the SEAL trident on one side. On the other side was engraved, Sierra 7, Christmas 2024, 0 casualties. "They don't give those to just anyone," Crawford said. "You're part of the Brotherhood now, whether you're 15 or 50. Spring came to Virginia. Ava sat in her high school chemistry class, trying to focus on electron configurations, when her mind kept drifting to windage calculations and bullet trajectories. Her phone buzzed with a coded message from Blake. Another mission, a hostage situation in Somalia. Multiple American aid workers held by militants. SEAL Team 7 specifically requested her. Crawford briefed her that evening. The psychologist's report showed she was handling everything remarkably well, but there were concerns about long-term impact. "Are you really fine?" Crawford asked. Ava thought honestly about the nightmares, about the 12 men she'd killed on Christmas, but also about Zara now safe, about the SEALs who'd gone home to their families. "I'm not fine," she admitted, "but I'm doing something that matters. That's better than fine." Crawford studied her for a long moment. "You're wise beyond your years. I just hope the cost of that wisdom isn't too high." Ava's voice was steady. "My father paid the ultimate cost. I can handle the lesser one." The next morning, Ava was on a military transport heading to Djibouti to link up with SEAL Team 7 for mission planning. As the plane climbed through the clouds, she pulled out her father's mirror, its scratched surface catching the sunlight. "Still keeping them safe, Dad," she whispered. "One mission at a time." In her pocket, the SEAL Challenge coin pressed against her leg, a reminder that she wasn't alone in this strange life she'd chosen. She had brothers now, operators who'd stand beside her when it mattered most. The plane leveled off at cruising altitude. Ava opened her mission briefing and began studying the terrain maps of Somalia. Somewhere ahead, Americans needed help, and she would be there to provide it. Because that's what snipers did. They watched over others from a distance, taking the shots no one else could take, making the sacrifices no one else could make. Her father had taught her that, and on a snowy Christmas mountain in Afghanistan, she'd proven she'd learned the lesson well. 3 years later, on her 18th birthday, Ava Rise received an official letter from the Department of Defense. The text was brief. "Your service to the nation has been exemplary. When you're ready, if you want a place among us, it's yours. We would be honored to have you." It was signed by the commanders of SEAL Team 7, Delta Force, and the CIA Special Activities Division. Ava read the letter in her Georgetown University dorm room, where she was studying international relations and maintaining a perfect 4.0. To her classmates, she was just another ambitious student. They had no idea she'd completed 17 classified missions over the past 3 years, or that her call sign was known throughout the special operations community. She opened her desk drawer and pulled out 3 items: her father's mirror, the SEAL Challenge coin, and a photograph of a little Afghan girl named Zara, smiling as she started her first day at school in Kabul. The letter asked if she wanted a place among them. She'd never left. Ava Reyes picked up her phone and dialed Blake's number. "Sir, this is Sierra 7. I'm ready for full-time duty." On the other end, she could hear the smile in his voice. "Welcome home, operator. We've been waiting for you." The youngest sniper in American military history had just officially enlisted.